ask me, Savage, what is your book about? I'll summarize it for you in one or two sentences. Only a more savage nation can survive. Not a more compassionate nation. Not a more sensitive nation. No, only a more savage nation.
Good morning. Good morning. I started it off with a clip from Michael Savage, and we're going to finish that up with one of my favorite clips from Michael Savage, which is a continuation of where he led off there. That's a little hot this morning. Sweating here a little bit. Let me see. Let me start it.
Only a more savage nation can survive. Not a more compassionate nation. Not a more sensitive nation. No, only a more savage nation.
Savage.
My first job out of college was a social worker in the Upper West Side of New York, and all of my so-called clients were minorities. And the abuses of the system that I saw nauseated me. Now, I was a good liberal at the time, having had my brain washed at one of the city universities of New York's colleges by a whole slew of European emigres who, instead of kissing the ground when they got here, urinated on the ground and immediately sought to instill communist philosophy in the minds of the young, a goodly portion of them anyway. So I was a warped liberal kid. Took a job as a social worker to save the oppressed minority. I was always an idealist. I still am, as a matter of fact. And I saw the abuses of the system, one after the other. The people were working and said they didn't. They were ripping off the welfare system. But here's the most abusive thing I saw. I was a young worker. I was making $5,500 a year, remember it to this day. I had no furniture in my apartment. I had a mattress on the floor and I think orange crates for lamp tables and things of that nature. And yet, I remember visiting one of the so-called welfare clients and coming back to my supervisor in the New York City Department of Social Welfare, whatever it was. And she said to me, well, do they have furniture? I said, no. She said, well, get out a pen. She said, now write this down. They're setting up an apartment, Mr. and Mrs. whoever, Mr. and Mrs. G. Now, she said, every civilized family needs a bed. Write down $340 for a bed. They need 2 lamp tables. Write down $120 each. In the living room, they need a coffee table. Write down $120. They need a sofa. Write down $300. They need 2 lamp tables. They need 2 lamps, et cetera, and so on. The bill was something like $3,000 or $4,000 that I had to authorize a check to Mr. and Mrs. G to furnish their welfare apartment so they could lead a standardized life. I went home to a mattress on the floor and 2 orange crates, and I was the professional. That's when I knew the system was broken. That's when I knew the system was sick. Now, it didn't radicalize me. I just left the welfare department and moved into teaching. I saw certain excesses in teaching, but I loved the children. I taught in an all-black school, and I happened to love it. I got along great with the kids. They got along great with me. I had certain techniques of teaching that worked very well. I never challenged them when they went down certain roads, and I let them challenge themselves, and it worked out real fine. And then I decided, I really love teaching. And I love students. So I said, I'm going to go to the top of the teaching profession. Well, how do you do that? Well, I'll go back to school and laboriously get a master's degree and then a PhD, and then I'll be a college professor. Well, I'll speed it up. I got the best possible college PhD you can ever get from a great university. I had written 6 or 8 books by the time I graduated, and I came to get my job. They said, white men need not apply. That's when the worm turned.
That's when the worm turned for Michael Savage. And I think for many people, they have a similar journey. I have a journey myself where when the worm finally turned for me, it wasn't overnight. Welcome, Master Kim. I have quite a story for you. I'm glad you joined, actually. This morning, we're going to go off track a little bit. I was in an Uber with a Korean guy. I actually recorded some of the conversation. He may be joining this morning. Should be interesting. Anyway, so he was telling me about he went through the Korean War. Are you familiar with? Have your parents ever told you about the Korean War, Master Kim?
Very little. All we know is that obviously we're very thankful for the U.S. Army sacrificing so many lives. So, these Korea during the Korean War and soon after the Korean War, very poor country. So, but with all that being said, no, I look forward to hearing the story he told you, and hopefully he joins the panel.
He very well could. He's driving Uber, so he may not have time. But one of the interesting things he was telling me is that I didn't think about this, but Koreans and South Koreans and North Koreans are the same people, according to him anyway. So he was saying, basically, I have family, way back that were North Koreans. I think his family escaped from North Korea to South Korea for freedom and things like that. I didn't even know, I don't know if this is true, but you tell me if it's true. You can't call North Korea by phone. Is that true?
Yep, that's correct. Zero communication between South Korea and North Korea. For a very small window, there may have been some elements of communication during maybe the end of the Obama administration. But with that being said, yes, that's 100% true.
That's truly amazing. Do you know I may have asked you this, if you have family, has your parents ever talked about family that were like stranded or in North Korea?
I know very little about my Korean family, but generally speaking, everyone within a certain generation has had family in North Korea because North Korea, believe it or not, before the Korean War, had a lot of manufacturing. So a lot of manufacturing jobs were actually in North Korea, not South Korea. South Korea was more agriculture. Obviously, the economies have flip-flopped since the Korean War. So there were many Koreans that actually would go to North Korea for labor, to work in a factory
Really?
job. Yeah, so it was very common before the war.
Do you think it was just communism that made the flip-flop? Was it just a pure example of communism being bad?
Well, yes, absolutely. Obviously the DMZ being created or whatnot in two completely separate countries. And yes, communism is a failed structure. South Korea is 100% capitalism. The U.S. Army did help, or the U.S. helped rebuild Korea, and their business model is state-backed capitalism. When we see all these names like Hyundai or LG or whatnot, earlier back in the day, they were propped up by the Korean government, and the Korean government helped fund them or help them gain access to loans. So the Korean government had helped create these monarchies of capitalism, which are thriving today, in addition to the help of the U.S. government back in the day. So, if the U.S. government didn't help Korea during the World War, I mean, we'd all be speaking Mandarin or whatever North Chinese speak. Um, you know, China and the Japanese have whooped on Korea's butt. I mean, just very strong Asian countries in the area. But funny enough, today all is fine. I mean, we all just kind of look at how can we be more like the Japanese, and how their industriousness and dominating many sectors.
Or is the Japanese sort of like the aspirational culture or whatever that the Asians look up to? Is that how it is?
You know, I'm going to say it's the unsaid. Now, the gentleman that drove you in the Uber today, he would swear up and down that he can't stand the Japanese because they're not only successful, but they're ruthless, absolutely ruthless. Pre World War II, during World War, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm just flipping my
That's
words.
okay.
During World War II as well, and then whatnot. So they're a very disciplined, successful group of people. So yeah, I think that people admire. How can you not admire them? Even the current Chinese. How can you not admire what they're doing? I mean, it's absolutely stunning what they're doing. Now, mind you, I'm pro-American top to bottom, so please don't take this as I'm pro-Chinese, Korean, or Japanese. I'm love.
Yeah, you
They do.
honest. Honesty is like a lion. It doesn't need defense. Hey, the guy, the Uber driver was telling me that he was in LA during the riots, I guess '92. Interesting. He was a preacher, a minister or whatever. I guess a Korean minister. And he what he said he spent a lot of time with black people. He said he spent a lot of time with black people, so he knew a lot of old Negroes. He even used the word Negro. I haven't heard that word used in a long time by a non-black person. It didn't
Yeah.
offend me, but go ahead.
Yeah, so in LA, obviously all the sporting goods stores, meaning for clothes, and obviously all the beauty supply stores and wig shops are all, kind of ran by the Koreans, at least back in the 80s and 90s. Now I'm sure there's different people part of that business as well, but dominated by the Koreans. So yeah, when the Koreans first come to the country, they just like Latinos, they end up working for these established, existing businesses that are owned by that culture, and they're just doing menial work and learn the business and yada yada yada. So yeah, it makes perfect sense. He was out in L.A.
Let me get into this story, Master Kim, and I think that it's interesting that you joined. That you joined because you have some experience dealing with black people, kind of at the base level, retail, correct?
Yes.
So I think some of our stories, my stories, may overlap with your stories as I get into this. But before I do, what did you think about the? Had you ever heard of Michael Savage before?
Yep. If I'm not mistaken, kind of a conservative commentator out of Ohio somewhere. But I think he's not pro-Trump. If I'm not mistaken, you would have expected a guy like that to be pro-Trump, but he's not. Is this the right commentator, conservative
Yeah,
commentator?
no, he's out of I think Sausalito, California. Um, uh, Brooklyn guy initially, and then
Okay. Yep. Sorry about that.
yeah, and he's very pro-Trump. Very very pro-Trump. His slogan is "Borders, language, and culture is what makes a country." Very interesting. I used to listen to Michael Savage a long time ago when he was on broadcast radio. Well, anyway, let me get in. Well, what did you think about what he said there before I go get
Oh,
started?
I think it's great. Absolutely great. Spot on. And please forgive me. I'm getting Michael Savage mixed up with another conservative commentator that, obviously flipped the script. So yeah, it's Michael Miscormick or something like that. He used to be.
Oh yeah. I
Anyways,
think
yeah,
I
I'm
think I
getting
have it.
confused with him. My
I
my
think I have it.
apologies. But yeah,
What prompted me to do this
yeah.
stream today? Or one of the things that prompted me to do this stream is that over the years, I've had to adjust my strategy when renting to black people. And so one of the things that I constantly encountered, let me know if you ever see my screen, Master Kim, is this,
Yes.
right? If you understand this. So, this would be part of your business, part of mine. You see the bonnets on the heads. You probably sold them the bonnets. But here's the thing that, I often experience. Particularly when I was renting houses, I would rent a house to someone, Master Kim, and I would get paid for, let's say, 3 bedrooms. And then the house would be, occupied by 10 people. But I'm not getting paid for the 10. I have to maintain the 10. And it became like a real sore point because all these people are shitting, using the bathroom, they're going in and out of the doors all day, and they just end up destroying things a lot faster. And if I have time, I'm going to bring a door. Matter of fact, hold for 1 second. So that's again, as I was saying, how when you rent to black people, and you may be familiar with this as they come in and out of your stores, they go in and out of the door so often that the wear and tear on the door is not like it would be for a normal person. So you end up having to replace the doors all the time, the door locks all the time, sometimes doors too. But here's something interesting about a door knob handle. This is an exterior door handle, so it doesn't have keys or anything. But so if you can see this, what it says is that there are 400,000 cycles. So basically what this says is that you can go in and out of the door 400,000 times before the lock is going to fail. And just imagine, when you're renting to people, and oftentimes when you hear about housing authorities and things like that, they'll always complain about the doors. The landlord didn't break the door. They didn't put the door defective. But this number of people in and out, in and out, in and out of your house all day when you're only expecting 2 or 3 people. As I showed you here, I had to buy an industrial exterior door latch lock, not the lock, but the handle, because just the regular door handles that normal people will be able to put in their homes and make a go of it, you won't be able to do that. You'll find yourself replacing door handles all the time. People getting locked out. Someone says, "Is that an industrial lock?" No, someone says it's light commercial, if you see. But these are the type of things that when you'll never understand it until you end up replacing door handles. And he said, "Damn, you can't buy normal American and just normal residential door handles. You have to buy commercial or industrial." Just for a front door, man, because they're in and out all day. They smoke cigarettes in and out all day. And so just whatever you think is normal, it's just not normal. So you have to upgrade in terms of from residential to like industrial or commercial. And so one of the things, for people that are getting into the landlord business or that already are, this is going to be your biggest thing, particularly if you're dealing with Section 8. You're going to be housing more people than you're getting paid for. And so there are particular strategies around there. And I have a show coming up regarding how you maximize your property when you're renting to Section 8. If you're going to do it, I wouldn't even suggest that people do it. But some of the things, I've talked about, and I'm going to go back over them here again today. But Master Kim, let me ask you this question. How is it dealing with the Black women in the beauty salon business?
Well, I guess I also want to kind of preference this by, when my mother had owned a beauty supply store, it was, when I was, very young, as well as going into, end of elementary school. And so, but my mother's always, from owning one, she's most certainly worked as an employee at one. Being a poor immigrant Korean mother, she's been either an owner or an employee, doing exactly some of the jobs I mentioned on a previous podcast with you. I'm going to say if things are going great, good, but things could pop off easily into a misunderstanding, because there is a perception of that the Koreans are overcharging at the stores, and that there's a perception of racism, whether it's real or not. That's always looming in the background. So, it doesn't take much for stuff to pop off. So I think knowing that environment, my mother had to really watch her words very carefully to make sure that there was no misunderstanding. One of the biggest factors is theft. Theft is huge because you cannot stop another human being that is determined to grab something in front of you and walk out. But the problem is that the person's going to return, because there's only so many beauty supply stores in the
Mm-hmm.
neighborhood. So they don't think about, well, in 2.5, 3 weeks, I do want to come back here to buy these particular products. So it's just stunning. Well, you know, why would you steal from a place that you have to return to? So there's something missing along the
Yeah.
way. Now it's so it's a tug of war back and forth, and a lot of misunderstanding as well. But with that being said, Korean beauty supplies, the wigs and the hair products pay a huge margin, very huge margin. Not the skincare products, not all the packaged products that you can touch on the shelf. Those are very
Mm.
tight margin products. So yeah, it's a very lucrative business if you are an owner. If you're an employee, and getting beat up or pushed, or all that kind of assaultive stuff. Keep in mind one thing that I also want to mention that kind of covers your show as well as Chaotic Truth show, and I keep on forgetting to mention. There's a word called recreational violence. Okay, and that is a
Mhm.
very. I mean, there is aggression and violence, right? Robbery and assault, but what people fail to mention is when young youth, doesn't matter what color you are, it's kind of funny to throw a brick. It's very entertaining to create some level of vandalism and aggression. It's fun. You know, however, many other cultures shun that behavior and put a lid on it. It's the recreational violence of punking someone out, or let me go up to this white girl and just slap her. and they get a big. And we see all those videos on it. So
Yeah,
that is
yeah,
one thing that's stunning is the recreational violence that's also put on Asians. At these stores, there's videos of people just getting punked. Uh, and I don't think it has more. I mean, it is mean spirited on that, but I think they're just it's fun, and they're having it's fun, unfortunately, and that's kind of too taboo to say. Some of the violence, it isn't that these people are the devil. It's just they're having fun, but it's just causing heck
definitely
and
fun.
harm to the
Yeah.
victims.
Let me ask you this question. And I know the topic was about renting to blacks, but since you're here, I think we can really talk about just doing business with blacks because your family is down in the mud, man, selling them wig hats and shit like that. Like, what? I get the question all the time, John Galt, why do you do it? Why do you deal with these people? Most people don't want to do it. I imagine that your mother is and your family is probably at the same type of questioning. Like, why do you go in there ghetto dealing with those blacks that do these things?
Yes, yes, and very good question. And I'm going to say one reason, is because, at the time, very other opportunities, especially if you have limited English. And if you graduated high school, like from Korea, that's not like the United States, right? So limited education, limited English skills. They can't go to IBM or Pepsi and get a, category manager job or, so they kind of grind it out in the little things that they are successful at. And this is also the reason why African American businesses do fail because when the going gets tough, these people master English, and so many of them do have higher education. They can say, "Well, screw this. I'm not going to run no beauty supply stores if my customers are treating me like crap and stealing stuff. I'm going to go work for Pepsi." So they do have other options. And I'm going to say this real quick, and I don't mean to jump
Yeah.
tracks. I
Okay.
used to I used to be involved in selling of gas stations. Okay, so
Okay.
a very successful African American gentleman and his girlfriend wanted to buy a gas station, and I
Hmm.
said, "Oh, is that true?"
Hey,
He
hold
goes,
on,
"Yeah."
hold on, Mister. Let me ask you a question. What did this successful African American gentleman do to be so
Uh,
successful?
a government job, working for the Air Force Base.
Okay.
So I don't know if he was retired and now working for a contract. I don't remember all the
But he
nuances,
was
but
the bulk of his income was government based. Is that what you're telling me?
yes, yes, but the gentleman was like in his late 30s, divorced, and had good looking African American girlfriend, and just he was flossing. I mean, just living life. It sounded like.
Oh, yeah.
And so when he wanted to buy a gas station, him and his girl were going to run it. I said, "Oh, is that true?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "Okay." Then I told him, I go, "Well, do me a favor. I can find you a station. That's not an issue, but don't you and your girlfriend ever get sick." And he's like, "What?" I go, "Oh, yeah, yeah, because you can't call in sick. If it's your station,
Mm-hmm.
you got to show up. You got to run that puppy. And when your family's got that little family gathering every year in Virginia, you can't go to that. So
Mm-hmm.
so don't you ever get sick and you got to cancel." And it wasn't that I was trying to intimidate him, but I just kind of let him know when you see these Patels or these other people chained behind the cash register, they are literally I mean, not like in real chains, but they're
I know.
they're in prison. They're in prison, but their
Right.
goal is bigger than those average Americans.
How many? Like, so you used to sell gas stations? Is that right?
Yeah, so I and a partner own. So last night on Chaotic Stream, I misled you. I said that I own gas stations.
Okay.
That's incorrect. Me and a partner,
That's
okay,
fair. You own some of the gas
own
stations.
stations. So yeah, so for a time, I've always, I and my partner, because keep in mind, banks don't know what to do with gas stations because there's tanks underground. Banks are very dubious about owning an asset that's contaminated or potentially contaminated. So there's a way to play it because obviously since the financial collapse, commercial property is now assessed with the business's returns. Can it make money? Not that's the value now. Isn't just I've got a $1 million corner now. It's a matter of the business that's currently on site. What can it generate and whatnot. So yeah, so I've always kind of dabbled. I've always been a part of that, and then predominantly there's a reason why the Pakistanis and the Indians dominate in the gas station business as well. A lot of it is because they're unwilling to do what us Americans, or they're willing to do what us Americans just won't do. We're not going to deal with that. We're not going to deal with people blowing smoke in our face, stealing stuff, calling us names, and and employees just not showing up, and just all that type of typical stuff. So it doesn't matter what color you are. You can thrive as an entrepreneur, but you have to be able to deal with the stuff that the average American will not. Just like you, John, I've watched your videos. You're dealing with stuff that the average American will turn their stomach, but that's your success.
Let me ask you this question: did the black guy end up buying the gas station?
Oh, no. He backed out 100% because and also if he would have been interested, I would also tell him why Americans fail at the gas station industry. In one, unless you're a corporation like a Circle K that have got layers of managers, but that's exactly why, is because in the gas station industry, every single day they could be stealing lottery tickets, Red Bull drinks, cigarettes. They never stop. Compared to if you work at a
You
Dunkin'
said they never
Donuts,
stopped stealing.
they
Is that
never
what you
stop
said?
stealing. Yeah, because these
Right,
are readily available consumer products, right?
right,
Versus if
right.
you worked at Baskin and Robbins, are you going to be stealing an ice cream cone every day? At a certain point, you don't want to take any more pizza or
Right.
ice cream, right? But in the convenience store industry, every day, oh yeah, bring home some crazy. Oh, do they got double A batteries? Oh, bring some home. You know, so they supplement their income by just scamming shit, and it's just they say everyone starts off on.
Oh, you breaking up there, Mexican? What'd you say?
They hire their cousins and brothers and uncles and wives, and they don't steal from themselves.
So I think we missed part of what you're saying. You were breaking up. You would say back up about, I don't know, 10 seconds. And what were you saying there?
Oh yeah, so that's why I think Americans do poorly at owning small retail, is because of they don't know, they're not structured to deal with high theft, versus the Hindu Indians and the Arabic communities thrive in this industry because they got their whole family working there, and that's the reason why there's almost zero shrink, meaning theft.
I see what
By
you're saying. Yeah,
by staff,
by
because
yeah, right. Yeah.
it's the staff that will do you in. Not, I mean, customers are always going to steal, but it's the staff that can really hurt you, because a brick of lottery tickets might be $1,500.
I mean, they can
Um,
steal the lottery tickets and do what with them? Well, what's a lottery ticket worth if it's not the winning number?
Oh yeah. Well, that's how dumb they are, right? They'll scratch them off, and think that, well, the lucky ticket may. It's a very, it just shows you how deranged the brain is of a cashier, right? They'll waste $2,000 just to get $300 in winners. And what I'll do is I'll show up to the store and I'll dig through the garbage, and I'll kind of do like a little bit of evidence collecting, like, oh, there's some ho-hos, oh, there's the Red Bull drink that they, because they're bored. And then I'll dig up all their lottery
And they're just
tickets.
eating and drinking stuff.
Yeah, they're eating, drinking stuff, but also they're scratching off lottery tickets and trying to find a winner. So I'll dig it through the garbage, and sometimes they're customers, and I get it. But then all suddenly I realized that and this is at night shift. Then I realized that their tickets are missing, or I don't see any used tickets in the garbage. So I'm thinking, what's going on here? So then I go check the garbage outside the store. Like at the doors. Every time you go into a gas station, there's garbages outside. Then I check those garbages, and that's where the lottery tickets are, scratch off tickets. So nevertheless, it's just part of the business. Everyone steals. It's very unfortunate. So when you see these big Circle K's and all these gas stations, they spend so much energy in audits. They're auditing everything every day, and
Hmm.
it's just stunning what they do. And then when you get people that have worked for a big company, like these big chain stores or Kroger's or CVS, when they come to you, if you don't have those levels of security, it's a free for all for them, and they know their legal rights. I mean, I've caught
So
employees
basically, what you're
stealing.
saying. So basically, what you're saying. Well, you have a question up here, Mr. Kim, from Get Crack for me. You want to answer that? Yeah, I'm assuming it's a real question.
Okay, let's see. Mr. Kim, do you worry about crude oil futures? Okay, so right now, obviously, depends on where the West Texas crudes. Okay, so in the United States, we don't look at um, the crude oil on the futures market. We look at where the barrel is out of Cushing, Oklahoma, like the West Texas crude, and we
Mm.
look at what the New York Harbor market as well. So we look at those two markets, because every day when the stock market closes, you'll see regular gasoline, and you can go to CNN Money and look at this. You'll see where regular gasoline is posted at, like, let's say 5 o'clock. That is the gas price for the day, and it will go up a couple pennies, it'll go down a couple pennies. It's aggregate fractional amounts that the price spikes up or down. So I'm going to say no, because for the actual barrels to go up like by $5 or $6, there has to be much more catastrophic, instantaneous events, like the bombing in the Persian Gulf area and stuff like that. And I'm speaking in generalities, but I'm going to say the markets that the U.S. Rebob gas, which is for formulated blend stock gas, it's the Cushing, Oklahoma market, and the New York Harbor is the markets that we watch that really dictate it. And there's one
Really?
more market called the Chicago Mercantile Exchange.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, yep. So RBOB futures is the market we watch out of that. So there's obviously there's two separate markets. There's the paper form market, so the futures market, as you just so rightfully mentioned, and then there's the real tangible market of the gas, and you have to watch each of them. But for the sake of this conversation, gas is tracked daily, and it's affected in real time daily. It's probably one of the very few commodities that are affected into the street price daily.
So, damn, I didn't know that. How did you get into this?
So my family, we've owned grocery stores and liquor stores and gas stations. So just by being in the industry, and this kind of hints back to previous conversations that I think Chaotic has had, wouldn't you just naturally be curious, right? If the Hostess guy is coming every single day delivering Hostess Twinkies, aren't you naturally curious? What does it cost to do a route? Right. And I'm
Mhm.
using Hostess, Hostess filed bankruptcy. So I'm just using this. It's just a proxy example.
Right,
Right.
I get you.
So
I
yeah,
get it.
yeah. No different than you, John. I mean, look at the questions you're asking, right? Because you're just naturally curious. Is there an angle? Am I
Mhm.
going to say something that would be a biscuit of information? And all this information is available to people, but they have to come to the river's edge and be part of that, right? And present themselves as a certain type of person, so these people open up and do want to share. So, and I'm going to use this as an example, and I'm using the Patels as just the proxy example. I'm not trying to
Right.
pick on them.
Well, it's
The
just a
Patel,
placeholder. I got you.
yeah,
Go ahead.
the Patels have a problem, and this is their problem. They're absolutely very hungry to grow in business. Okay, so they buy this store, that store. But guess what? Their kids don't come back to work the stores. Their kids become doctors and pharmacists.
Right,
So
yeah.
who's going to run these damn stores? Okay,
Mhm.
so if I were, an African American or a white guy, that I would go to a local Patel gas station or liquor store or hotel, and I would bust my butt to be their number one employee, because guess what? Years down the line, 5 years, 10 years, they're going to drop a set of keys in your hand, and you'll be a partner to them. Okay. So they're looking for substitutes, partners. Because everyone they know becomes so big and successful. They don't want to be running no,
On the
red
gas station.
red roof inn, right? Or they,
So they're
so
basically successfully evolving out of the business.
yes, that's exactly correct. And I see people working for these people, stealing from them, doing all this gangster stuff. I'm like, dog, if you were smart, you would control your immediate whatever. Don't be stealing cases of beers. You're taking the garbage out. Be this guy's number one guy. Prove him wrong, because I know that this guy's looking to buy another store because he's trying to get it from me. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, you're dealing with these Indians. You also have to understand that they've got a plan, and the plan is at times much bigger than they are. Same with
Mhm.
you, John. What you got going on is bigger than one human being. I watched one of your videos that you
Yeah,
need.
no, yeah,
If you're up in New York, you need someone with a set of keys to be dropping
right,
in at this house,
right,
that house. So
right.
you.
Yeah.
So these people on
You
this
can't do it by
panel,
yourself.
they might need to say, hey, before Red Lobster closed, hey, I want to buy you a nice surf and turf dinner, John. Where can we meet? They need to be getting under your wing, because as you grow, hey, when they come to this zip code, John knows I'm his guy. And I'm going to be emailing you, hey, this is going in the sheriff auction, John. What do you think? What do you think? Okay, I can't be there, but can you show up to the sheriff auction? You know, so
Mhm.
that's what these. So what I'm saying, John, is not new news to you. You've heard of this. This is nothing astounding. I am not a scholar by any means. This is not impressive to you at all. But there's a whole group of Americans. This is like rocket science to them. To if I were on this panel. Oh, one thing I was going to say earlier,
Sure, go ahead.
and this is important. Me and my business partner split ways. I had a previous business partner. He was a Patel. This man, the way the taxes are structured, you know, I forgot what IRS code it is that you can write off 100% of the investment. So there's a minority partner, then there's the big dog partner. He was the big dog partner, I was the minority partner, and on a K1 statement, obviously I get paid on distributions of a profit. But if you're constantly buying new business assets, you're writing that off, right, to
Right,
avoid the
right.
tax liability. So I just didn't receive any distributions, and it was that we parted ways and whatnot. And there's some things that maybe I felt he owed me money, but this is what I did. I made sure that I bowed out gracefully. I didn't accuse him of anything. I knew that it's my responsibility. When you get in bed with a business partner that's powerful than you and you're the weakling, I knew it was coming. I accepted that responsibility. So when we parted ways, I praised him because I wanted to keep that door open, despite I think he cheated me. I didn't bring that up, but I wanted to keep that door open because he was more successful than me. He was smarter than me. And one day he's going to remember me and want me to be a partner in maybe another venture that maybe I can be stronger and we can be a 50-50 partner. So the point I'm trying to mention is one thing that I learned earlier on is know your role, just like that Rustler says, know your role. Yeah, with me and a lot of Asians, we know our role. And knowing your role and knowing, and that doesn't mean, you know, we are not equal. And I think it's okay to say we're not equal. We're not
Mhm.
equal. I am you know, below this guy. And you know, in the eyes of Christianity, where, you know, maybe that doesn't fare well, but I'm just going by pragmatic things. I am not equal to this person. So I heed to his level of expertise and success, and I keep that door open. I'm not jockeying for mine. What's you scam me out of this or that or whatever. It's just, you know, I keep that door open. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, you know, Jamie Dimon once said, you treat people that are just more important than you different. You do. You don't get into this bullshit of, hey, we're all this. Yeah, I'm gonna belly up to a man to man. I'm gonna get in his face and tell him what I think. That's just shit in like TV. In the real world, I think a lot of these other cultures know their role. I know my role, and it's okay. So when that knucklehead, what's his name? Remember, I said, hey, I was wrong. He was right. Uh,
Stanley.
Stanley, yeah. When he broke it down his background, I knew my role. Oh
Now,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
let me ask you this, Master Kim, not to interrupt you. Um, I lost my train of thought, but let me show you this picture here, and then I'll get back to what I'm thinking. Are you able to see this picture?
Yes, I see it.
Do you see? Can you see what? No, let me give you some context here. This was during the height of coronavirus. This is at St. Mark's and Ralph in Brooklyn, New York. Like, this is the hood, man. This is close to Brownsville. This is midnight at night. This little immigrant boy, I think he's Yemeni, is running a counter, no mask, during the height of coronavirus. It's midnight. And he's selling beer and Lucy's to grown men. Look at this grown ass man in the middle of the night. Not many blacks are going to let their children go out and do that. Not going to do it. The niggas will tell you, oh, it's against the law. My child need to be asleep so he can go to school in the morning. He ain't learning anything, but he going to school for the breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But this little boy right here, he'll be running this store in 3 or 4 years. He learning now. Midnight, boy got no fear in him. And you know, as you were saying, they need this next stable of workers, and here he is. And I asked him when I got to the counter, I said, man, how old are you? I think he's 12 years old. Can you imagine a black person and their son working in the ghetto at a counter, not even a bulletproof shield blocking him? And again, this is St. Mark's and Ralph Avenue. in Brooklyn. Can you imagine any black mother, even the most ghettoest mother, letting her son do this, Master Kim?
Yeah, that that is stunning. Not only that, but just like you mentioned, it's unlawful, right? He's only 12 and selling loosies and all that stuff. But yeah, stunning. But again, certain areas people we are able to get away with murder. I mean, the guy's obviously not mature enough to assess someone that's under 21 versus over 21. He's probably too young to and maybe his uncle, someone's in the back room chilling a bit while this guy's running the front.
Right.
But yeah,
It's
it's stunning.
it's
It's very
someone in there
stunning.
with me. Yeah, it's very stunning. But do you think that this is going on in most of the immigrant communities, Master Kim?
Yeah, I would say to a degree. One is they are, teaching the kid, the hard knocks of running the store. I mean, this kid will obviously go to college and not, migrate to running the store. But while he's a kid, this is a very good
You think this
lesson.
Yemeni kid? You think this Yemeni kid is going to go to college?
Oh yeah, yeah, of course. Because so just because he's running the store, he's probably affiliated with the owners or whatnot. And yes, and Yemenis are they're Muslim. They're very hardworking people. So yeah, this is not like the same as you see like a Latino kid washing dishes in the back of a restaurant. These are two different worlds. So yeah, this is not like an abused labor. This kid is probably affiliated with the owners.
I mean, he's probably the owner's child.
Yes, yes, yeah. He'll because these people don't want them to run the store life because it's very dangerous. Because remember, most
Mm,
people are killed closing the store or opening these
mm.
stores. That's
Damn, I never
very
thought about that. Yeah.
dangerous. Yeah. So when and you'll notice at night when they close the store, they'll back the car up to the store door so that they don't have to walk
Mhm.
across the lot, and they'll have it
Right.
backed in. And the owner will have his pistol. Not he won't have his hand on the pistol because he's got his hands on the keys trying to close everything up. But that is the most dangerous time right there because they do get accosted or whatnot. But the funny thing about it is the money isn't with them. The money is in the timed safe. So there is nothing to steal, right? And that's the stunning thing about it. So when they are jacked, they're jacked for like what the gallon of milk that the owner was bringing home because the wife said, "Hey, on your way home, bring a gallon of milk," right? So they're
Or
jacked
just
for
the
a bunch of
car, maybe,
nothingness.
or
Or
the
the car,
car.
yes, yes, or the car.
Damn.
That's exactly right.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Kim. In a ghetto neighborhood like this, and I can't remember exactly what the guy told me, but it was like a stunning number. What do you think a store like this does in the ghetto?
So a store like this probably does about maybe 70 to maybe $80,000 of inside store sales, but just stupid shit: beer, wine, Lucy's, blunt wraps, blunt wraps, blunt wraps, blunt wraps, single Pampers, Oh, there's stores that sell single Pampers just like
Yeah,
Lucy's.
I see that before. Yeah, they break a pepper down.
Yep,
Oh,
and then
a pepper down in the one pepper piece.
now
So go ahead.
in
What do you think these people are making?
So I think so. We're talking about gross sales, right? So gross sales
Right.
probably does seven. Now it just okay. So I'm speaking of no lottery and no gasoline because those are very tight margin products. So when Yemeni's guy number one is selling the store to Yemeni's guy number two, they want to
Hmm.
exclude lottery and gas because that needs to be looked at differently because those are tight margins. So inside store sales, I'm going to say 70, $80,000 a month, and with the average
That's what he
pooled
said.
margin, I'm going to say 70, 80,000 a month. And with
Damn,
the
that's all right.
let's say, and if they're not frying chicken or
They
doing
make
any
sandwiches.
okay,
They
so
make
if they're making
sandwiches.
sandwiches, they're going to have a pooled margin of let's say 32%. So that's a big chunk of change. Their labor is cheap because it's all family. So these guys are banking it, and they're not
Bro, that's like
remodeling this.
software margins. You
Pardon me.
talking about damn near software margins here.
Yep, absolutely. They're making bank now. If they're selling like those glass dick pipes and all of the drug paraphernalia and all that weird spice stuff, where you cannot go to CVS or Walgreens to buy, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so they're making helly margin on that stuff. Now, this is a
No
perfect
shit.
this is a perfect example of my argument last night that I could either be pro or against, and depending on which angle you want me to, what side of the fence you want me to talk on, I'm for it. But this is a merchant of despair, absolutely top to bottom. All they care about
Wait,
is
Mexican. Let me dig deeper into that. So what you're saying is that they are basically selling poisonous products
Well, yes,
to
yes.
people in despair.
Right. Yeah, for people to spare. And here in Georgia, it's trifold because of the poker machines. So we're talking about the blunt wraps. uh, okay, majority of all the stuff that you and Chaotic talk about, what is glossed over is the substances in these people's body. Now, John, you are a successful man. You can have your glass of red wine. You can smoke your as Chaotic would say, your weed. And most of Americans, white, black, or green, would say, yes, those that are stable in America can do what they want, right? but
Hmm.
but the people committing these heinous crimes and a lot of domestic abuse and just going off, what we're kind of over glossing over is their intoxication levels. So some of your tenants that have just gone off crazy, one of them had to have something in their body. So and
Hmm.
and where is it all coming from? It's not coming from the Walgreens down the road. It's coming from these guys.
Hmm. Yeah.
Where doesn't matter what type of money you got enough to buy one little 16-ounce Mick Ultra, or you're going to have enough for a Lucy. You're going to have enough for whatever they got going on. And they're now, in defense to these people,
Yeah, I
they're
want to hear your defense.
yeah, they're not advertising anyone to show up and step foot in their store. They're not handing out flyers. Hey, come to
Mm.
JJ's liquor store or Quick Mart. These are people in the community. In fact, they're not telling people, hey, if you stop by tomorrow at noon, I'm doing 2 wings for 5 for. They're doing nothing like
Right.
that. They just open their doors and people come. So I've gone to some of these store owners and say, hey, you know, if if you're going to have your wife and your daughter stop by and bring you lunch or dinner every once in a while, Mr. Store Owner, you probably want to put these glass dicks away, like this drug paraphernalia. And please forgive me for using profanity. You may
That's
want
fine.
to
That's
put
fine.
this stuff away. And he was opening up a liquor store next to his gas station. And I said, if you open up a liquor store, you're going to bring out all the thugs. You're going to bring out all the problems. And but you and your daughter and your wife's coming here and your wife works the counter once in a while, you can have a lot more problems that you just don't want women to be around. He looked at me and shook his head, and this is a Patel. And I was stunned because Korean people, we don't think like this. I swear to God, we don't think like this. We think because of Christianity. Christianity
Mm.
is part of Asian America. It's a recent thing, you know.
Right.
But he shook his head and said, "Homie, black people just love to drink." Like whatever BS I was trying to tell him, like don't open up a liquor store because you're gonna harm, you're gonna bring out a lot more problems now. The people are gonna be this is gonna be the spot to be doing stuff. And he just
Hmm.
shook his head in disbelief, like I was wasting his time. In fact, he felt that he was giving them what they wanted, and it would be a disservice to not do it. And I was like, damn, that there was not that. And it would be the same thing of them saying, "Hey, well, let me give $200 to to this girls softball team, and they're gonna have my name on their jerseys." It would be the same mindset that would do that. And this guy just wasn't having it. So the point I'm trying to mention is, and it wasn't that, but it was just they wanted. They're not intentionally trying to drain the community, but they're just giving these people what they're asking for. I mean, it's
Would you say?
stunning,
Would you
absolutely
say that the
stunning.
Indians? Would you say that the Indians are a little less have less scruples than say the Koreans? Is that what you're saying?
Okay, I wanna watch how I say this because these guys are wildly successful. So let's say the golden rule, which is I don't know if that's a Protestant thing or
Mm.
whatever it is. I'm not going to do unto you like you because John's got family too, right? I'm not going to do him dirty, right? That is not only is that the golden rule, but that's man against man. Like I'll get my ass beat. John's going to find me at the Walmart parking lot and punk me out in front of my wife and kids, and I'll be humiliated, right? If I do John dirty, for example, right?
Right.
These people don't think like that. They don't think like they'll have a white boy HVAC guy take apart their air conditioning unit or to fix it, right? And while homie's got his tools spread out everywhere, they'll try to bicker with him about the price and refuse to pay. And dog stuff that we as Americans know, you're gonna get your ass kicked. For one, this HVAC guy who probably was already doing it near free anyways. he'll never step foot in your store again, and he'll take the loss. But that's the difference with these white people is they're very disciplined, and when they're committed to that's it. You'll never see their face again. They're not going to go online, trash talk you, and they're going to accept the loss. And that is the one big thing about owning a store in a blue collar, a low income white area versus the hood. In the hood, someone could punk you out, and maybe there's exchange of words, but they'll be back by Friday, which is a good thing, right?
Oh,
Versus
good
in a
and bad, I
white,
guess, right?
yeah, but in a white area, a guy like I'm using Savage Red as just an example, right?
Right, right.
Savage Red is going to look at you dead in your eyes and let you know this is the last time you're going to see this face, and he means it. So now he's never going to show up there. His sister, his mom, his next door neighbors. That these guys are a matter of principle. And one thing I also wanted to say about Savage Red, and I'm not trying to diss him at all,
No, it's fine. You
that
go ahead.
Savage Red isn't that impressed with himself. And this is why, right? There are guys like Savage Red, a dime a dozen, hardworking guys that can flip the script. So remember how you said, "Hey, I've never heard of a guy addicted to something flip the script." It
Right, right,
happens. It happens a lot, and there's
right.
something with their brain that they just have got, in the back of their mind that, hey, and this is just me talking. Please forgive me, and I don't want
No,
Savage
it's
Red
fine.
coming up and punking me out. I
I
think in
have my
Savage
thoughts. Go ahead.
I think in Savage Red's mind, he knows that my ancestors landed on Plymouth Rock, and I was made to do some good things on this planet, and that's always in the back of their mind. I mean, they fucking invented the polio vaccine, right? So I think in the back of their mind, I mean, they're like, hey, my ancestors landed on the damn moon. So in the back of their mind, they have something that I think polices their behavior and helps pull them out of the deep end. Right now, we all know that people can. What is it when they get back on dope again? Relapse, right?
Relapse, yeah.
So
Mm.
yeah. So they can relapse. But the point I'm trying to mention is, I think guys like Savage Red are a dime a dozen. Successful, by the way. It's not
Mm-hmm.
uncommon, right?
Flow
I
state.
grew up.
You seen
I
Flow State, right?
Pardon me.
Have you heard the guy Flow State? He
Flow
has a very
state.
similar story to Savage. You know, he was
Oh
on
no,
drugs,
no.
found
Uh,
back.
I'll look him up for sure. And again, I guess what I was trying to
He's on
illustrate
TT from time to time.
is guys like Savage Red. He's met a million of his type of guys left and right, and it's unimpressive. But when you have whole communities made up of guys that know how to turn their shit around, and there's plenty of them that don't. They just, when payday comes, you won't see their face because they're blitzed, and they overindulge and all this stuff. Um, One thing I will say is very important with poor white people versus the hood. Poor white people learn a trade. So, can we talk about? I watched a show about the legalization of marijuana affecting communities. Do you mind if we
Yeah,
just touch? Because that's what Savage
yeah,
was
sure.
so that dog. He's so smart. So when we became legalized in Michigan, I called my brother, who's very smart, and said, "Hey, my brother and I have nothing to do with weed ever. We're just not part of that subculture." And I go, I go, uh, you know, I asked my brother, "Hey, one of these grow licenses, should we hire a high power attorney and we, kind of become next in line to apply for the
Mhm.
license? Is there basically, hey, is there any money in this stuff?" And
Right.
my brother, who's a lawyer, by the way, he coined it perfect. He goes, "Mike, I understand your enthusiasm." He goes, "Keep in mind, these weed people, it's a subculture. And we've got guys like Savage Red. Keep in mind, Savage Red might be middle class, blue collar,
Yeah.
but
I don't
but
think it's cool
he
at all.
but he's a couple stone throws away from wealthy white people that are
Hmm.
connected family, right?
Hmm.
Savage Red
Yeah.
can take the same concept because these guys know the laws, they understand the process. They're 5 years to 10 years ahead of everyone as far as applying for these licenses. So they knew to the day that these licenses were going to be available. So guys like Savage Red had already connected with someone in their family to apply for these licenses. They know it's almost like gun culture, the subculture gun culture. They know is it the Second Amendment that you get to hold?
Yeah, Second Amendment.
Okay, so they know the weed laws solid. So therefore, the rest of America don't have a chance because the subculture is on it, right? They're on
Hmm.
it, and so therefore, that's why you would have to take an African American, come Johnny come lately, and cry to the state like, hey, we were disenfranchised, and they divvy up a license. It works. Right? So that's what I was alluding to with the gaming licenses in Georgia. The same concept should be done with African Americans. Go whine to the Georgia lottery and say, "Hey, we're disenfranchised, and we're the ones spending all the money on these poker machines. Give us a free license." So I'm sorry, John.
No, take it. No, I think you're definitely right. Look at this right here, Master Kim. Are you able to see my screen? Are you able to see my screen here, Master Kim?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was on mute. My apologies. Yes, I
Oh,
am. No medical card, no worries, no options
right.
for on the spot cards, yada yada yada. Yes, I see
So
for DC residents.
this is one of DC's premier medical marijuana dispensaries. I think it may have been the first one. Let me see. It may have been the first medical marijuana company. I'm not going to spoil it for you yet. If you've seen it already, you know where I'm headed with this. But I think
No, I haven't. This is new.
okay. So I think this may have been the first dispensary, right? Now I want you to see who owns this dispensary, Master King. And it really falls directly in line with everything you said here. And if this page will come up, I want you to see this. Let's see what is taking so long. Oh, here it is. I want you to take a look at the page of who owns this company. Well, here we are.
Oh, Rabbi Jeffrey Kahn. Yeah, there you go.
It's the person, Master Kim, I remember when the niggas were in DC and they were jumping up and down thinking that it was going to be so easy, that they were going to have medical marijuana and everything was going to be hunky dory. And it was going to turn their street entrepreneurs into legitimate business owners. And then when you look at this, Master Kim, you just realize like the people who are more organized, the people who really know how to operate businesses. And again, this is a family-run business.
Yes.
It's the mother, father, and the son. And I just don't think the blacks, as they are wired with their pursuit of regular mainstream type jobs, there's no one willing to sacrifice so that they can do this. Does that make sense, Mr. Kim?
Oh yeah, I think you're right. And the key word is sacrifice because they don't need to, as well as a lot of whites don't need to do this because there are many
Yeah.
other options. They don't need to desperately try to understand the law. I mean, whereas these guys probably themselves try to read, and they hired some big dog attorney that brought them up to speed on what the legislation is and how they're able to get in line quickly. So yeah, this is remarkable. I'm glad you showed me this.
What was I about to say? You were saying something about the profitability of the marijuana and you talked to your brother or something about it?
Yeah, because we're not part of that is chaotic. And again, I love the way he says it's smoking weed. We're not part of that culture. Is there any money in it? I was like, hey, if there is there money to be made in this, or is this and can we jump ahead and kind of Netflix everyone, although we got nothing to do with it when it comes to these grow licenses? Could we now get into that business? In Michigan, there's a culture called Chaldeans. Have you ever heard of them by chance? They're
Yeah,
Arabic
yeah, yeah,
Christian.
yeah.
Chaldeans is who I look up to. If you look at them, they look Italian or they look Greek. They're very Americanized. They're very successful.
Hmm.
They build their stores in the hood, and they've got all granite counters. They got barbecue chicken. I mean, they are just very successful owners. So the reason I mentioned this is, in fact, I had used them as the proxy example to my brother. Should we scoop a license before the Chaldeans do? Because they are the ones in that market in the
Yeah.
Midwest that just are just on fire. and they are the ones that maybe some of their kids do go on the higher degrees or whatnot, but a lot of them do stay in the store business, but they take stuff to the next level. So the reason I mentioned that is you had said, hey, is there a kind of a group that here in America we aspire to the at least me to what the Chaldeans which is our competitor in that market, but they're just wildly successful. I think the Arabic man is just kind of a brazen risk-taking guy, and he'll put it all on the line, and he knows his legal rights. Um, so yeah, man, they're very successful people.
So it seems like around the country, different immigrant groups have their foothold. And you're in the South. Are there a lot of Koreans running business with the Koreans and the Indians in the South?
Yeah, so there are Koreans, but Koreans always struggle dealing in the black communities because language barrier, and plus there's one thing that Koreans do that are different that really turns African Americans off. So, for example, and you probably have heard this before, John. So it's nothing to come into a liquor store. Hey, what's up, Ted? What's up, buddy? Did you see the Falcons game? Or yeah, what's up, man? Like
Right.
that jovial American. Koreans aren't wired like that. In fact, for me to look you in your eye and say, "Hey, what's up, John?" In Asian culture, and maybe this is old Asian culture, it'd be a sign of disrespect and challenging you to get all up in your grill and loud and stuff
Mm,
like that. Well, African Americans take that as like, oh, he's racist. The guy can't even say what up to me, and I come here every single day. Well, it's really just kind of the culture is a very conservative culture. They are not like, in fact, I love it, man. And in my family store, there was the blacks that did come into our store up in Michigan, there was a factory. And when it let out, the guy would come into the store. It was dope. I love it. He goes, "Hey, Kung Fu, grab me a bottle of that Bumpy Face." And Bumpy Face is the Seagram's gin, right?
it's the gin. I
Yeah,
know that.
and it was so funny the way he broke it down. I loved it because it just, but that type of comment is all day long in the black community. They're not cracking on me. It's just the way it is.
Right.
They just joke.
Hey,
Hey, hey, hey.
do you think blacks are just like when they're not violent, are just all of kind of a bit more jovial and fun to be around?
Oh,
I've heard
oh
otherwise.
yeah. I mean, I said on the Chaotic Show, if it were our villages being attacked, and I'm gonna say the black. So my name is Master Kim, right? I do that as a play of, in the black communities, there'd be like some taekwondo studio or big gym, and it had the owners, big plastered, obnoxious, back in the 70s and 80s, right? Like martial Asians with martial arts was the big thing in the black community. That was a thing. So my belligerent Master Kim is a play on what Asians were perceived back in the 70s and 80s during the Bruce Lee movie era. So that's where that comes from. The over the top, in which there would be a profile of some Korean guy in a Taekwondo gi turned sideways with Master Chun, and I just, so that's my play on that. Is the over belligerent Asian bit and whatnot. But John, uh, I would say yes. If I were my life were at risk, I want an African American to be with me because there's a term in the hood called doing a Cagney. So the gangster James Cagney, the black and white movies back in the day,
Yeah,
right? And at least in Detroit, they called it doing a Cagney, where you would just take a beer bottle, crush it, and just like attack someone, right? Because you're getting jumped anyways, right?
right.
So that mindset, well, in Detroit, we called it doing a Cagney, and I'm sure in Baltimore they call it a different name, just go for broke. That was predominantly, I believe, more of an urban type of thing. Like I'm not going out like Willie Lump Lump for whatever that movie that was, Boys in the Hood or something like that. That used to be a predominantly kind of urban mindset, but now because of rap music, it's spread out to the suburbs. But yeah, they're great people. I've made excellent friends because they also have shared a struggle. So anything that you're down in your life, there's no one better to be friends with to help share that struggle. The problem becomes, is this a good ally to make it to the next level? So one thing that I think is also very important when you on one of your streams you were talking about um, some guy, some NFL ball player that lost all his millions. you
Yeah.
know, keep in
He
mind
spent
that
it all.
yes, he spent it all. Keep in mind, JT Pocket Watcher, there's a term that he brought up several times. I don't know if that is his phrase, but I don't want to hijack it from him, called legacy debt, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're the first one to make it big, you've got this strong income, but it's not enough income to go buy your mom a house, and then your boy Dion from back in the day, co-sign on his new car. There just isn't enough resources to take care of a team of people, right? And when you make it big, you got this legacy debt kind of pulling on your, and that drags you down. Versus the average white person, okay, just has a lot more stability. So even as the white uncle makes it big, well, the his brother-in-law has got too much pride to go to the wealthy tire guru who owns all these tire shops to borrow money off him. They just won't do it. So therefore, as the white people get wealthy and established, I don't think that they're burdened with the same amount of legacy debt. And and again, I'm saying very big generalities, right? And then there is there was a short that I watched on Mike Tyson was being interviewed by someone, by that DJ Vlad or something like that, where they
Mm-hmm.
said, "Why do you keep on going back to the hood or have so and so in your life? All these kind of people that are not prominent celebrities. Why are you still dealing with them?" And he reworded the guy's question like, "Are you trying to get raw with me? Like, how dare you ask that question?" It's because Mike Tyson had shared that struggle with these people back in the day, and won't let these people go. And that's beauty. That's a beautiful thing. And so it's almost like the perfect human being would be a mesh of the Patels, a mesh of a white man, and a mesh of African American would create the perfect human being.
We probably need some of the moral authority of the Korean mix in there, Master Kim.
Remember, Koreans supplement, enhance, wait, what is it? So we supplement and enhance and alter current stuff. So we're there in the background, perfecting stuff that Americans are making. That's it. But yes, maybe some Asians in the mix to keep it all good.
Moral authority. Check
Yes.
this video, Master Kim. It's kind of what you were talking about. Just I think this is it. Let's play
Get your first paycheck, right? The thing they always say is like, you should buy your mom a house, or you should take care of your parents and things like that.
No, okay, look, you take care of yourself first and foremost.
Yeah,
Now, that should be the message.
Right.
But a lot of parents in a lot of situations, they live vicariously through their kids. So when they make it, it's we made it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's when you gonna take care of us. We need this house. It's that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's those pressures that some parents put on their kids, which is unfair. The truth of the matter is you had your fucking shot, and to be whatever you wanted to be, it didn't pan out for whatever that dream was, if that's what you wanted it to be. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You ask white kids, what's the first thing you bought? They've never said anything about buying their parents anything. They're taught the
You heard that message again?
Oh yes, that's an absolutely excellent video. Yes, indeed.
And listen to the end of it.
move the money forward, right? So whatever money they get, they're saving. So when they get kids, they can take care of their kids for their kids to take care of their kids.
Right.
We're taught when we make money, move back.
We gotta take care of our parents.
We got to take care of our parents. So by the time we all get kids, there's no money left. So the life we gave our parents, we can't give our kids.
When you first get your first paycheck,
Jason said it's almost as if what he's saying, it's like the niggas are living in reverse, Master Kim. And they're investing all the money that they make in their parents. When the parents at this point should have had a home. Did you or your brother have the pressures to take care of your parents? You seem like you've done pretty well for yourself.
Yep. No, not at all. But there is the unsaid looming. Okay, so in a lot of these poor countries like Korea, and even people that have come from Jamaica or Haiti or whatnot, there's no social security in these countries. So the successful professional adult child is the social security in the retirement for the parents. So case in point, I can't just wake up and say F you, boss, or whoever, or partner. I can't. I got to have enough self-control because I'm responsible for everyone. So therefore, that's why I don't chase women, although I'm married. That's why I don't go do other belligerent behavior, although I could. Right. In fact, I can pound my fist and say, "Hey, every dollar in this household is because of me." But I'm kind of like I'm going to do what I want, but I've got a lot of self control. Thought of a lot of, and I'm using Jamaicans as an example. Jamaica's a very poor country. The Jamaicans here are wildly successful because they're responsible for their parents. The big macro picture thinking. Because there are the problem with the U.S. capitalism is when you fall hard to the bottom, but yet you get to shake it off and get back up on the horse, as they say, right? So a lot of the Asians and Indians and Jamaicans and Greeks and all these other
Kim,
cultures.
hold your thought. I have to deliver something. 1 second. Hold your thought. 1 second.
Yes.
Sorry about that, Mr. Kim. I had a delivery I had to drop off. Anyway, go ahead, follow up.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I lost train of thought. Please, lead the way. I'm sorry, I lost train of thought what we were discussing precisely.
Now, I think we've been going about an hour and a half or hour and 15 minutes or so. This has been a great conversation. I intended to talk about something else, but I've been wanting to interview you, and I still do. I want to talk to you more about the beauty salons and kind of how you got into that business and all that, go deeper on that. But man, this has been a great talk, Master Kim. I'm glad you joined. I was hoping that Uber driver would have joined. I would have had 2 Koreans up here. That would have been very
Yeah,
interesting.
and I keep on reverting back to movies because the stereotypes of all the Koreans or Asians are spot on too, by the way, right? So there's a movie called Menace to Society, and do you remember? Is it O Dog or Who Shoots the
Yeah,
Korean? Okay,
yeah, I
do you
remember
remember?
though. Yeah,
Do you remember in the movie the guy said, "I feel sorry for your mata"? Was that Menace to Society where the Korean liquor store
I
owner said,
don't remember. People in the chat may
Okay,
know.
so that is a legit comment. Okay, and so what I'm trying to say about this is, in my opinion, it will. No, I guess let me speak for me. If I ever get dissed or punked out, because I'm 50 years old, I'm not going to be scrapping with no one. But the first thing goes to my mind is my daughter's going to be going through pharmacy school. I feel sorry for what the hell you got going on with your kid. I anything harm that comes to me or disrespect or slighted to me, I immediately think about the future, the macro level. Who's going to win this this war of disrespect while your kids are struggling with with the hardships of life? My kids are going to be at a different level. So I'm taking today's complete insult and disrespect, and I'm already thinking in the macro level. Not every time. So by that movie, O Dog or Business Society, I feel sorry for your mata. You know, that is a true comment, that he's thinking of the big macro level, not what was currently going on at the moment. And that is what I think this macro level of thinking of, oh, like I said, I got to control myself because I'm responsible for all these human beings. So it doesn't matter that someone's flashing their brights on me behind me. What goes through my mind is don't pump the brakes, because obviously in Georgia, people are carrying pistols all over the place, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
just
yeah.
let them go on by. So this is just a silly comment, and I'm sorry, and it's not just Koreans. Many other people think like that,
No,
but
go ahead.
think about the success of your other generations, and that is the ultimate payback. And I think that helps with a lot of self-control. Oh my God, there was a study done recently where they're talking about men in relationships, and they've got white, black, Mexican, Asian men, And who was picked last on the list in every category was Asian men. It's very stunning,
Hmm.
and I love that report because it's so true. And again, I think that's why the Hindus and the Asians are so successful because to to scoop a white woman, you got to be relatively successful by American standards, So yeah, that's it. I think it's very funny, and I don't need to hijack the Hindu Patels, but I think when they're
Yeah,
talking
that's fine.
Asians, I think they're
Yeah, yeah.
grouping those people too, because there's just the four categories. But it was very dynamic study. It's well known that Asian men are the last on the pecking order as far as is white women's preference, black. I mean,
Hmm.
just but it's great because it helps men instead of chasing that P, right? Oh, it helps being a
Yeah,
loser socially. So
yeah,
instead of chasing that P 24/7, you kind of balance it out by, she's going to like me more when I'm driving that whatever, by, simple lizard brain thinking, right?
yeah.
Um,
Master Kim, did you hear the chat, the stream on CT channel where I talked about what the black man should do, and primarily I said you just got to stop chasing women and focus on
yes.
yourself.
Yeah, but I think the problem is that is a very important comment, but it gets lost in the gloss, if you will. That is a
Mhm.
very the minute men can put a lid on it, doesn't matter what color you are on, and then try to let me make myself successful. Then once I'm oh, just like from Scarface. That unfortunately, it's a line from Scarface. Let me get the money, then I get the. I mean, it is
Mm, yeah, yeah.
absolutely true, absolutely
Hmm.
true. Versus chasing, because keep in mind, why would you want to appear to be a rock star just for Friday night? Because then when you run out of money, and what are you going to do for the second act? But if you blow all your money and whatnot, so yeah, I mean, yeah, that's I think it's absolutely it's destroying communities. I mean, my father wanted nothing to do with my brother and I. Why? Because he was out there getting at it. You know what I mean? And
Is that right? He was chasing women.
pardon me.
Your brother was chasing women.
Oh, no, no, no. My father,
Oh, your father. Sorry.
Yep, my father had brought my mother from Korea and did he was already married and all that stuff. And just, my mom was maybe his mistress. And it is just a devastating thing of when a man just can't commit and does all this goofy man shit and just destroys all these human beings' lives and all these,
Yeah.
so it's devastating because here's the thing. I believe that you have to artificially hold on 1 second. Yep. Hey, Tommy, can you give me about 5 minutes to call you back? Yep. Bye bye. Sorry about that. I'm gonna be on the stream longer. I just wanted to that I think what it is that you have to artificially put a lid on it because it will never end, right? And the smart ones come to that realization, just like what you mentioned, right? You have to quit chasing women to achieve a certain level of success and focus, and it's very inspiring.
Master Kim, let me finish off this chat. I wanted to hit this article because it's really made an impression on me. This is right during the time of coronavirus. You can see the date here, and it really had an effect on how I operate my business. And so, if we can end up on with some advice or some insight, I heard the Hilton CEO video of this, and when I heard this, I knew Master Kim that I was going in the right direction. And so here's what the Hilton CEO said. Again, this is during the height of coronavirus. Bring on the money press. Inflation is no big deal to us. This is the Hilton CEO. And I want you to listen closely to what he says. Hyperinflation is no big deal to the CEO of Hilton, who says we can reprice our product every second of every day. That's an amazing quote, right? Every second of every day they can reprice their product. And he's talking about the software capabilities to do that. And someone
Yes.
mentioned in the chat about Uber, and they would like to hear about Uber. And I think I want to do that. Again, I've been a software developer for a long time, and I think the Uber drivers don't see what's happening to them behind the scenes, and the algorithm is driving them into the ground. But here's what I'm going to finish up here. Let's see. And though Hilton is a global, Here's what it says. The ability to raise prices is helping hotel owners offset higher wages. Combined with new operating standards that require less labor, owners will likely see better margins on the other side of the pandemic. Meanwhile, the strong leisure demand is driving the lodging recovery is likely to stick around for a while. If you look at the $3 trillion of incremental savings during COVID, and again, this is 2001, he said, there's a long way to go to spend it all. Thank you, Federal Reserve and the U.S. Congress, for fiscal and monetary stimulus. And this is what I said all along during COVID, the people that, bowed down and they took the checks. The big business, they had a plan, they got the bulk of the money. And I was in New York, I saw so many people bow down and give away their businesses, more or less, their homes, allowing people to basically take them. And when I read that Hilton article, CEO, I said, man, it's a tale of two different worlds, But Master Kim has been a great. Any last words? If you have any advice for the Black community, hell, they need it. You ought to give it to them right now if you have some.
Oh yeah, just listen to you kick the knowledge. I mean, you've got excellent advice, excellent insight, and not just for the Black community. You're investing, buying real assets, and I think it's lovely. I've watched. I still have a lot more of your streams to watch, but you're kicking some excellent knowledge and whatnot. So I mean. I'm a businessman, and I've always tried to wonder what happens to these neighbors that are, because we all know where maybe the Starbucks or the gas stations are and the CVS's, but what about the neighborhoods that are kind of buried away from the main street corners? How are, where, gentrification hasn't even popped off yet. And again, this whole gentrification thing, I think, is a farce, because I think there's some neighborhoods that are falsely gentrified when there really was no demand. It's actually kind of funny to see those neighborhoods pop up, and yet there's no population to support it. It's funny. And when it comes to gentrification, I think people should be hyped up and happy that happens, because property values are risen and people need to be mini Johns buying up these homes.
Yeah. If they had owned them before all the gentrification, they would have been very wealthy indeed. All right, Mr. Kim, I think I hope you'll see you over at Chaotic. I'm going to jump on Chaotic stream. Okay.
Thank you very much. See you shortly. Yep. Bye-bye.
Oh, thank you. All right. Bye-bye. And I guess we'll finish it off today. I had something I want to finish it off with.
If you ask me, Savage, what is your book about? I'll summarize it for you in 1 or 2 sentences. Only a more savage nation can survive. Not a more compassionate nation. Not a more sensitive nation. No, only a more savage nation.
Savage.
My first job out of college was a social worker in the Upper West Side of New York, and all of my so-called clients were minorities. And the abuses of the system that I saw nauseated me. Now, I was a good liberal at the time, having had my brain washed at one of the city universities of New York's colleges by a whole slew of European emigres who, instead of kissing the ground when they got here, urinated on the ground, and immediately sought to instill communist philosophy in the minds of the young, a goodly portion of them anyway. So I was a warped liberal kid. Took a job as a social worker to save the oppressed minority. I was always an idealist. I still am, as a matter of fact. And I saw the abuses of the system, one after the other. The people were working and said they didn't. They were ripping off the welfare system. But here's the most abusive thing I saw. I was a young worker. I was making $5,500 a year, remember it to this day. I had no furniture in my apartment. I had a mattress on the floor and I think orange crates for lamp tables and things of that nature. And yet I remember visiting one of the so-called welfare clients and coming back to my supervisor in the New York City Department of Social Welfare, whatever it was. And she said to me, well, do they have furniture? I said, no. She said, well, get out a pen. She said, now write this down. They're setting up an apartment, Mr. and Mrs. whoever, Mr. and Mrs. G. Now, she said, every civilized family needs a bed. Write down $340 for a bed. They need 2 lamp tables. Write down $120 each. In the living room, they need a coffee table. Write down $120. They need a sofa. Write down $300. They need 2 lamp tables. They need 2 lamps, et cetera, and so on. The bill was something like $3,000 or $4,000 that I had to authorize a check to Mr. and Mrs. G to furnish their welfare apartment so they could lead a standardized life. I went home to a mattress on the floor and 2 orange crates, and I was the professional. That's when I knew the system was broken. That's when I knew the system was sick. Now, it didn't radicalize me. I just left the welfare department and moved into teaching. I saw certain excesses in teaching, but I loved the children. I taught in an all-black school, and I happened to love it. I got along great with the kids. They got along great with me. I had certain techniques of teaching that worked very well. I never challenged them when they went down certain roads, and I let them challenge themselves, and it worked out real fine. And then I decided, I really love teaching, and I love students. So I said, I'm going to go to the top of the teaching profession. Well, how do you do that? Well, I'll go back to school and laboriously get a master's degree and then a PhD, and then I'll be a college professor. Well, I'll speed it up. I got the best possible college PhD you can ever get from a great university. I had written 6 or 8 books by the time I graduated, and I came to get my job. They said, white men need not apply. That's when the worm turned.